I'm Dylan.
And I'm Kiyan.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we become rulers of some unknown planet. Just randomly.
Maybe it's in Galaxy 4. No, it's probably not.
Maybe it's Galaxy 5.
Or maybe it's...
I don't know, it's never specified.
They're on an island. There was just some random bit of dialogue that I caught. They're on an island.
What?
Yeah, they're on an island.
That.
But anyway, we watched... what was this called?
The Savages.
Savages.
Yeah.
Kind of unaptly named, whatever the word is. I don't know.
So it picks up where the Lost Serial left off, like most of them do.
Yep. So the Doctor and co materialize, and outside the TARDIS are some cavemen-looking guys. But the Doctor, again, decides to go off on his own. So they decide to split up again.
Well, he's like, well, it's an age of prosperity and peace, so I'm not going to be in trouble.
And he takes some random science fiction-y device that measures stuff.
The RV.
What does it stand for again? The
Resonancy vibrator, I think.
Something like that. Never explain what it does, never comes up again, and isn't really important at all, so, yeah. Honestly, they introduce a lot of the Doctor's technology that just isn't that important.
Oh, the reacting vibrator. And it has its own page on the wiki, so...
Let's see what it does.
It's
like one sentence long.
Yeah.
It says it's a device that he may have used for stuff, basically. But Steven and Dodo are now back at the TARDIS, and Steven's like, well, the Doctor's been gone for a long time. I'm gonna go off and find him. You stay here, further splitting them up.
And Dodo's just okay with it. She's like, okay. And so Steven goes off, and then Dodo looks... Well, some rocks fall next to her, and she looks up and sees this savage with a spear, and she screams. And Steven's like, whoa, what's going on?
So he runs back to the TARDIS. Meanwhile, the Doctor is still walking through the forest, and he senses that he's being watched, I guess. So he says, come on out, it's no use trying to hide. But some of the cavemen-looking guys are watching him, but they don't come out. Instead, two guys wearing futuristic-looking helmets come out of
Helmets
the underbrush.
that look like they wouldn't provide any protection at all. They have big holes in them.
I mean, unless you were shot, like, right on one of the points that actually covers your head.
And...
A gambling man's helmet.
Russian roulette in helmet form. But, so they say they've been waiting for the Doctor for a long time, and the Elders have been tracing his journey through space and time.
And they say they're disappointed that he's carrying a weapon, and the Doctor's like, no, I never carry weapons. This is my reacting vibrator. And they're like, oh, all right, that makes sense then.
You know, if it was a weapon and you just said it was the reacting vibrator, they would have all been dead.
Yep.
But it's not.
Then again, there's some pretty big plot holes later on in episode 4. Well, maybe not plot holes, but just things that I thought could have worked out differently. But we'll get to that, as we always do. So as
we always do. What if we just ended the episode right now? And the listeners were all confused.
No, but we're not going to do that. We may in the future, though. Just to disappoint everyone, like the end of this serial disappointed us.
So
foreshadowing.
Where were we?
They're taking the Doctor back to the city because they know he's been coming.
He tells them about his friends, and they're like, oh, the Elders didn't know you were traveling with friends. We'll go get them and stuff.
So they go back to the TARDIS, and then the Savages up on... Well, Dodo tells Steven and then the Doctor and stuff about the people she saw, and they're like, Dodo, you're probably just on drugs. What are you talking about? And she's like, no, I really saw them. And then some spears come flying out of nowhere. Looked pretty great in the reconstruction. This was a reconstruction, by the way.
They looked just like pictures of spears going...
Just flying diagonally across the screen. But they run away back into the futuristic city. And this is where you learn that inside the city walls, everything's all futuristic and stuff, but outside, it's all like not developed and jungly, which I thought was pretty interesting. And
Well,
we'll
they
get,
explain it
yeah, we'll get into
eventually.
the setting. Where I thought the setting for the serial was actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Like this was one of the. Well, I'll just say that this was my favorite serial in season 3 so far, despite the semi disappointing ending. And the setting really fascinated me. Like I want to know more about how this society came to be, but we'll get into how everything's
Came
laid
to
out.
be through greed.
Yeah,
Well,
basically.
problem solved. See you next week.
Uh, no, but so the doctor. Well, they meet the elders and the leader of these people, Jano, and he once again tells them that they've been tracking his journey and that they were expecting him.
But they
But
didn't know he was coming with friends.
right, so
Again.
they say they failed on that part, and the doctor's like, "No, no, so many other civilizations are way less sophisticated than you."
The
And
doctor somehow knows these people, or knows of them, but he never tells us who they are.
yeah, I mean, he does refer to them and himself as humans during one point in the serial. I don't exactly know where, but I guess that's just sort of an error or whatever. Um, so they give gifts to Steven and Dodo. They give Steven a dagger and they give Dodo a mirror.
Right.
And then they tell the doctor that he's been accepted onto their council of elders.
Just
Just, I don't know why, but just cuz. So he is, and he goes into some sort of council with them. Meanwhile, Dodo and Steven are taken on a tour of the city.
yeah, with Avon and Flower.
Flower.
Okay, when I saw their names on screen, I thought back to season one when we mentioned that everybody had a name beginning with A, and we thought maybe season two would be B and season three C. And I realized we were
No.
completely wrong on that aspect. Just
Yep.
completely wrong.
At least they stopped using names that were so similar, and at least they started differentiating people in regards to costumes and stuff. Because in season 1, it was pretty bad.
True.
Um, so yeah, the doctor in the council meeting, they sort of tell the doctor about their society that they that they've found a way to harness life energy or whatever they say, and it's allowed them to prosper so much, and that's how they've built all their great technology and advanced civilization. So meanwhile, Dodo and Steven are taking a tour, and they're kind of told the same thing by Avon and Flower.
Right. But
And then
Avon and Flower don't really know a lot about how it works.
right, and they're sort of afraid to go outside of the city walls, and
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so Dodo notices something off down a hallway where they're not supposed to go. And she's like, "What's that?" And Avon and Flower are like, "No, no, it's nothing." But she just leaves anyway.
Right.
And she comes across. Oh, we forgot the whole part with Nanina
Oh, yeah.
and stuff. Well, outside the city walls are some guards, and they have guns.
Light guns.
Yes, light guns.
Which are
And,
incredibly inefficient, actually.
well, they work for the purposes of what
Not if you
they're
look
trying
at
to
the
do.
light.
Well, yeah, not if you don't look at the light.
No, if you look at the light, you get knocked out.
Yeah.
Then it's completely useless.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, no, it's useful.
No,
Wait,
because
what?
because the gun was designed so that they would get control of the person, right? But if the person just looked at the light, they'd get knocked out, and the guards would be like, "Well, darn, now what?" Because they gained control of the people and then led them back to the city. But if they just looked at the light and got knocked out, then the guards would have to like carry them or something.
I guess it still works for the same purposes.
But it's way more
Anyway,
inefficient.
the life energy thing was kind of interesting, but we'll get into that anyway. So outside the city walls, there's just some.
Idol captures Nanina, and they go back.
We
and
have
then
to
they-
explain who these people are.
Nanina's a
He-
savage, and Idol's a guard, so they can't.
Idol's the captain of the guards. So
Nope.
yeah, Idol.
Oh
is.
wait, yeah, Idol is. Exorce
Exorce.
is like his co-lieutenant or something, who's also there.
So they capture
Captures
one of
Nanina.
the savages,
They take him back to the lab.
And Chow tries to turn himself in place of Nanina, but they're like, nope, and they take Nanina anyway. So they take Nanina back into their laboratory, and they're running what looks like some experiments on her. But it's actually not. They're actually just draining her life energy, which is how they power everything in the city, by draining the savage's life energy.
Yeah, so right before Nanina came in, they let go another savage they just drained the life energy from.
Right, and apparently they just throw them in these hallways that exit outside of the city and have them just stagger out, because after they get their life energy drained, they're kind of in a daze.
Dodo sees the savage and screams, and then episode 1 ends. And then episode 2 starts and nothing happens to Dodo, and the savage just walks past and goes outside.
And then Dodo's like, that was weird, and she winds up in the laboratory, and they think she's one of the savages that they're about to drain, and she's like, what? No, what are you guys doing? What?
Meanwhile, Steven, Avon, and Flower, go to the elders and like, Dodo's gone missing! Oh, man! And the doctor's like, well, she'll be fine. Because she's Dodo. Yep.
But, yeah, the people in the lab eventually figure out that she's not one of the savages and that she's one of the time travelers. And they're like, oh, he's made a grave mistake, so they return her to her friends.
Yeah. And she tries telling Steven and the doctor what's up. The doctor's like, no, not now. And so the doctor mentions he's got some technology he wants to show the elders or something in the TARDIS. Yeah. He's going to go get it. He takes Steven and Dodo with him. And then he tells Dodo that he didn't want her to say what happened because he didn't want the elders to hear. Because he also knows
the elders.
Yeah, the elders had told him how the machine thing worked, and he didn't approve of it, and he was gonna take him down or something.
Yeah. So they go back to the TARDIS, which is still outside the city, and they come across a dying savage.
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, Dodo, Steven, go back to the TARDIS for some medicine. I'll keep this guy company. So, meanwhile, X-Source is on patrol or whatever, and he comes across the doctor and the dying guy, and he's like, Doctor, what are you doing? The doctor's like, it's wrong how you guys are draining these people's energy. And X-Source is like, no, it's not. And he takes the doctor. And then Steven and Dodo get back and they're like, what? Where's the doctor? But they give the guy some medicine. And then Chow and Tor, two savages, jump out of the... Well, Chow's the savage leader. Tor is just this really...
inflammatory
yeah.
lieutenant.
They jump out of the bushes and they're like, what are you doing? And Tor's like, we have to kill them. And Chow's like, no.
This is not the way. They helped us and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, no, that was Edol who came after the doctor. Because X-Source said,
Because X-Source is the one that later...
Maybe they are going back to confusingly similar names with similar looking and ranking people.
Well, after episode 3, you can tell which is which.
Yeah. Because of the stuff that happens.
We'll get there. So, Steven, Dodo, and the Savages go and, hide in a cave or something?
Well, because they realize X-Source is following them, so they're like, we have to hide in the caves. It's the only place where they don't go.
Right. And meanwhile, back in the city, they've taken the doctor back, and the doctor is telling Jano...
he confronts Jano, basically, and he tells him that what they're doing is wrong.
Right, and he says he's gonna do everything in his power to stop them, and then Jano just is like, take him down to the lab, boys.
Right, they're gonna drain the doctor's energy.
Yeah, and they do.
And then, Senta, the, lab technician or whatever, is like, it can't be done. We've never drained someone of such superior intellect before, and Jano's like, gonna do it anyway.
Why not?
So at first it looks like it's not working, but then they just get massive amounts of life energy from the doctor.
Well, he's not a human. Even though he claims to be in this episode.
For some reason. But then Jano's like, yeah, I'm gonna use that energy for myself. Screw all you guys, it's all mine.
Yeah, this is episode 3 now. Because the transfer happens over the end of episode 2,
Right.
beginning of episode 3.
Yeah. At the end of episode 2, you just see the doctor lying lifelessly there. And you're like, Doctor, what's going to happen to you? But you know he's going to live.
No, you don't. He could have died right there, and then Steven and Dodo could have shown up and transferred the life energy back into him.
I guess, but that's not what happened. No.
Well, you said he couldn't die there, but he could have. I mean, for
Well,
like
he
an
could-
episode.
He
but
could die in any episode, and they could just be like, yeah, the doctor's actually dead. He's not coming back. And I'd be like, wow. It could happen. I mean, it's not likely.
they're gonna end the series like that in the future. They're just gonna kill the Doctor, and he won't regenerate. And they'll be like, "Yep, he's dead now."
I'd be okay with that if it happened in a good way, where he, like, saved a bunch of people or something. What if the series ends or what if we die before the series ends? What if it keeps going for, like, another...
We'll have to find successors to
Years.
continue the podcast. 50 years we won't be dead.
What if we are... Okay, fine. What
We'll only
if
be
it
like
keeps
70.
What if it keeps going for like another 90 years?
Be 110.
We won't be dead. Right, anyway, we're getting off topic. What were we saying?
Oh, right. Okay, so Jano takes the in-transmission, in-transfusion, whatever it's
He
called.
takes the doctor's life energy.
and yeah.
Then the doctor's, like, mind gets transferred into his mind.
Or something like that.
Right, he starts talking like the doctor, and he refers to Steven and Dodo as his companions.
Yep.
And then Senta's like, are you okay, Jano?
And he's like, yep, totally fine. Go after the strangers, yo.
He kind of switches back between the doctor's personality and his own personality, and it's kind of weird.
So Jano just kind of goes off his rocker, so to speak, and
He orders some of his guards. He orders Edol and some of his other guards to go after to go capture the savages. Some savages.
right, and so
Meanwhile,
yeah,
so they're in the caves, and Exorce is... Well, at first he's not willing to go into the caves, but then he kind of does. And then Chow, Dodo, and Steven sort of flee into the passages in the back of the caves,
right.
which don't have any exit. They're sort of just a maze in the back of the caves. And who was it that told Exorce where they went? Was that...
I think it was Tor.
Yeah, I think it was Tor. I
Pretty sure it was Tor.
thought it might have been Wilda, too, but I'm not sure.
Wilda? Who was Wilda?
Wilda was the guy they rescued, who was dying.
He had a name?
Yes, it was Wilda!
What?
Anyway, it was probably Tor. So Exorce is like, where are they? And then Tor just motions to the back of the cave. And...
Oh, it's just some random savage, apparently.
Oh. Okay, well, yeah, whatever. So Exorce is hunting them down, and they're at a dead end, and they have nowhere to go. And then Steven thinks that since the light guns shoot a beam of light, perhaps they can be reflected. So he takes... and then Chow confirms that they can be reflected. And then he takes Dodo's mirror, and as Exorce fires his gun, he just holds up the mirror and catches Exorce in the beam instead.
That makes the gun literally useless.
If the savages had mirrors...
If they just had tin foil.
But
And it
they
brings a
don't.
new meaning to the tin foil hat. The savages go around wearing tin foil hats to prevent the light guns from capturing them. But they don't have to, as you'll see at the end of the episode.
But yeah, they hold Exorce captive, and Tor wants to kill him.
But Chow says no, and Steven says no, because they can use them kind of as leverage later to try and get the Doctor back.
Right.
So they decide they're going to go rescue the Doctor.
And as soon as they leave, Tor's like, I'm killing him.
And Nanina's like, no, you're not.
Right, Nanina protects Exorce, and I guess they just throw him in jail or something. It looked like they had a cell of some sort that they threw him in, to be honest.
I don't know, man. It was dark.
It was a cave.
Pictures.
It was a reconstruction.
So yeah.
So in another instance of a completely useless guard, they managed to break into the city. The guard was literally sitting there
Eating fruit.
Yeah.
He put his gun down to eat fruit.
So they knock him out, and then Dodo takes his gun, and then they get into the city because apparently Chow knows how to operate the lock mechanism on the door.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty interesting. It made me even more interested to see how this sort of split caste society came to be, because clearly the savages have, or at least Chow has some sort of understanding of the technology that the people in the city have. And I don't know, I was just really interested in it. I think it could be a premise for its own story, to be honest.
Maybe.
It would probably have a more satisfying ending, but anyway, they break into the city and they're in one of the halls that they released the savages back outside of the city from.
Right.
And the people, the guards know that they're coming in, so they start releasing this gas into the chamber, which starts making Dodo and Steven and Chow die.
Right.
I guess.
Well, they start, like, choking,
yeah,
I guess.
they start coughing or something. And they hear a voice over an intercom.
Wait, hey, Chow didn't go inside with them. Chow
Oh,
stayed
yeah,
outside.
Chow stayed outside.
It was the doctor that was choking. Because
Oh,
they
right,
they
they
sent the
sent
doctor into the corridor kind of as bait for Steven and Dodo to head further into the corridor so they could close the door behind them.
Right, and we forgot to mention that once someone's life energy is drained, they're in a daze for a while, but then they recover and they can have their energy drained again.
Yeah.
Which brings up a point that I want to talk about later. But anyway, so they're all just choking in this corridor, and they hear a voice telling them to drop their guns. And Dodo does it, but Steven's like, no! And
then you see Jano like, no, boy, don't drop your gun. Like in the doctor voice again. And then the door opens and Steven, Dodo, and the doctor escape.
Right, Jano opens it for them.
And this
I
is
guess.
into episode 4 now.
So they take the doctor back to the caves while being pursued by Edol and some other guards.
Yeah.
And
what happens next?
Steven kind of stays behind to distract the guards or whatever, but he eventually makes his way back to the caves.
So they regroup at the caves, and they give the doctor the pills they gave the other guy.
Wilda.
And he gets better, and the doctor's like, oh yeah, we'll have an ally. We're going to break in and destroy the lab.
Right, because at that point, Edol and I guess Jano was following with them too, because Steven
Jano
was about
with the guards.
Yeah, because Steven was about to shoot Dodo, or not Dodo,
Shoot
Jano.
Dodo.
No,
Steven backstabs the entire group.
No, he's about to shoot Jano, but then the doctor's like, no, we have to just lay low because we'll have a visitor tonight, as you said.
Yeah.
And that night, Jano walks into the caves, and they're like, whoa, it's Jano. But then the doctor's like, it's Jano, but with my sense of right and wrong.
Yeah, my conscience type
Because
thing.
apparently his life energy was so strong that when Jano absorbed it, he also absorbed the doctor's conscience and now thinks that draining people's life energy is wrong.
Oh, I thought it was like the conscience was always a part of the life energy, but the reason they drained it from the savages was because the savages had been beaten down so much that their conscience basically didn't exist because they didn't really have a will to live anyway, which is why they could drain energy from them safely.
Oh, that would make more sense, especially with what I wanted to bring up, which I'll just bring it up now. I was wondering, since life energy can be drained again and again with no visible repercussions other than that you're in a daze for a while, why didn't they just drain it from themselves?
I thought Chow looked all decrepit, like his skin was falling off because he'd been drained so many times. Like all the savages looked like they were like falling apart, and I thought that was because they were drained too many times.
It was only Chow who looked in a state of disrepair, to be honest. And I thought it was just because he was old or something. I don't know.
They all kind of looked like they were in disrepair to me, and I assumed that was because they had been drained so many times.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, they never explicitly state it, so I kind of thought otherwise. But anyway, Jano is now on the Doctor and Friends side.
Doctor and Co.
And Exorc hears all this and escapes, and then Tor just looks at everyone like, we should have killed him.
And then Nina goes off to him and was like, you know what you're doing, right? You're condemning all of us to die, or something like that.
And then Exorc just runs back to the city anyway.
But then I guess he changes his mind.
Right, and then Nina convinces him otherwise because when he gets back to the city, he doesn't tell them anything.
Yeah, and Idal, who went back after Jano told him to
Right,
go
Jano
back.
tells Idal and the other guards to go back to the city because he wants to deal with them by himself, which makes Idal really suspicious.
And he just claims military control of the city.
Right, he says that Jano is now a traitor and he's now the leader.
It surprised me that the elders were just okay with this. You'd think one of the other elders would just be like, no, the rule of procession is for another elder to take the leader's place. But apparently not. Apparently just any military commander can declare a military emergency and take control.
But then he's like, yeah, Jano's not here anymore, but then Jano shows up and he's like, what did you say?
See, I brought prisoners. See these peeps, they're my prisoners.
Right, and it's the Doctor and Steven and Dodo and some of the savages.
And then Idal's like, whoa, what? And Jano's like, you don't have command anymore.
And then Senta, who's also in the room, is like, get out of here, Idal.
So they send Idal out, and then Jano's like, lock the doors.
We're gonna break all the life-draining machine things.
And they do.
And then there's just like this 5-minute scene of them breaking the machines, which I wish I could have seen in actual footage and not reconstruction-y pictures.
Well, it was that tiny footage where the Doctor tells Dodo that there's something satisfying in breaking such machines of evil. Then he almost gets hit in the face with Dodo's plank.
Yep, and they're just all destroying the machines, including Exorce, who I guess also has changed his mind.
And then Idal breaks back in. He's like, what are you doing? And Jano's like, you don't have power here, Idal, anymore. None of us have power anymore.
And
We've destroyed the machines.
Right, and then Idal is about to shoot Jano, but Steven's like, nope, and he shoots Idal first.
Well, he doesn't die because they're light guns.
Right, yeah, no one dies in this serial. This is the first serial where no one has died since season 1.
Edge of Destruction.
The third serial, and this is the 26th, so it's been a very long run of people dying.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the end, they break all the machines, and Jano and Chow decide to form an alliance where the savages won't be treated as lesser beings anymore. And I thought that was kind of nice, but at the same time, how are they going to convince literally everyone else in the city that that's a good idea? Like, there's an entire council of elders, there's all the guards, and then there's the civilians who believe that the savages...
Did the elders leave the room before they smashed the technology?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Jano's the leader, so I guess he'll just be like, well, no, he's not the leader anymore. I guess we should just segue into that. They need a new leader, and they want to have the Doctor, but the Doctor says no because he has to continue traveling, and then they choose...
Steven.
Yeah.
Chow is like, he's the man I want to be a leader. And everyone agrees except Steven. Well, Steven's like, no, I could never do it. And then the Doctor is like, don't you see this would be the opportunity of a lifetime, boy? You have to do it. You're the only one who can
Brings us the question, why didn't the Doctor do it?
Yep. Maybe he was secretly thinking, I need to get this guy off my back somehow. He's been a pain in the neck for all this time.
I don't think so.
No, obviously not. But he basically convinces Steven to take up the opportunity. And Steven does.
And the Doctor leaves with Dodo.
Right? He and Steven shake hands, and then they go their separate ways, and Steven becomes leader. And that's how he's written out. It's how my favorite companion is written out. Now, I knew this was going to happen.
I didn't.
For a long time.
And I didn't see it coming, and then I was like, wow, that is the worst way I could have seen to write Steven out. Honestly, it would have been better if he had been killed by Idal. Fighting for what he believed in.
Well,
they could have had him die by Idal's hand, and then they could have unified the societies under the pretense that violence wasn't the answer and used Steven as a martyr for their new society. That would have even been better than Steven becoming leader.
Well, see, honestly, I think I have sort of a unique or a different perspective on all this, because I spoiled this for myself accidentally, like, over a month ago. So I knew he was going out in the way he did, and I knew it was going to be in this serial. So, and when I first read it, all that time ago, I was like, wow, that's really disappointing. But then when I actually saw it, it wasn't as disappointing as what I had assumed it would be when I read it. So that's why I wasn't as disappointed as probably you were. even though I
Well,
was.
it's like Steven would be a terrible leader.
Well,
He's too rash.
I remember there was this one line that Chow said is like, we need a leader who can think not only with his head but with his heart, and I thought that also kind of described Steven. I think we're kind of segueing into a Steven retrospective here, but I think that kind of perfectly described Steven because he was, as you said, he was a really rash guy, and I don't know, he was kind of maybe not a foil, but to the Doctor, but he, actually, yeah, foil to the Doctor, in that the Doctor was more analytical about things, and obviously had a great mind or whatever. But Steven was more the rash kind of younger guy.
But like making him ruler goes against his whole character because for every serial they've been showing that Steven is an adventurer and he always wants to go out and do his own thing. And in this serial they forced him to settle down and become ruler of
yeah,
planet.
no, I'm disappointed with that aspect of it too, and I always was ever since I read it over a month ago. But all I'm saying is that in my experience, which is obviously different than yours, I wasn't as disappointed because I thought it was going to be so much more disappointing, but it actually wasn't. But I mean, I don't know, it was still not one of the better character write-outs. Better than Vicky, though. I have to admit, better than Vicky.
Vicky was just
the worst. Just the worst. And she was a good character too, so I was like, wow.
All of the companions are good characters. They're well written.
Katarina, though.
She was okay.
She didn't even have a character. She was just there.
She died in the serial she was introduced in. She didn't have time to get a character.
Well, the serial after she was introduced. Technically, but like 3 episodes after.
She didn't have time.
Anyway, that's how Steven goes out. And after that, he becomes king and has 3 daughters, one of which he names Dodo.
And then the other 2 betray him and take over the seat, the kingship, the queenship, I guess. Queenship?
They depose him. And yeah, that's how Steven ends. But yeah, honestly, Steven, my favorite companion.
I still like Ian.
Really? You still like Ian?
I feel like Ian was a better foil to the Doctor than Steven was. Steven was rash, but Ian was more... Ian went against the Doctor more. Like, Steven was rash, but he was rash in that he was always trying to get the Doctor back. Whereas Ian went against the Doctor directly.
Well, I think that might have something to do with how Ian was a teacher, right? So he was used to sort of being in a leadership position, whereas Steven was just a probably insane guy.
Steven was a pilot.
And he was probably insane. He was... Come on. He jumped back into the flame for Hi-Fi.
They should have brought Hi-Fi back when they sent Steven off. You know, Steven cared so much about Hi-Fi on that planet, and he just doesn't care now. He just leaves the Doctor, and he left Hi-Fi in the TARDIS.
He never mentions Hi-Fi again, after risking his life for it.
Just never again.
But, to be honest, I liked Steven's character a lot, and it's kind of a shame to see him go out this way, but, I'll appreciate him for what he was while he was on the show.
Okay, I thought the way he went out was disappointing, but I did enjoy how the Doctor kind of made Steven take the opportunity, in that he knew Steven wasn't going to be able to travel with the Doctor forever, and the Doctor knew that, and the Doctor wanted Steven to, move on. I mean, I don't like the way Steven moved on, but I did enjoy that the Doctor tried to make Steven's life better, so to speak.
I guess, I mean...
I like the way the Doctor handled this going out rather than, Vicky, where he just didn't care.
I'd say on my ranking of companion write-outs, I'd put Ian and Barbara as first, Susan as second, I'm not even going to rank Katarina because she had less of a character than the rest of the companions. And then Steven as third and Vicky as fourth. I still think Vicky's write-out was worse than Steven's.
Well, because it was just a Deus Ex Machina.
And it had been done before, and better, in the case of Susan. But But yeah, I'm gonna be sad to see Steven go.
I mean,
Uh,
well, they're kind of, I guess, writing out all the First Doctor's companions now leading up to his demise. Because I'm guessing
Demise is kind of a dark word, but I
it is
guess.
legitimately a demise. He faces the Cybermen for the first time.
Oh, spoiler! I didn't know that. Okay, whatever. We're gonna watch
Not
it
even a
soon
spoiler.
anyway.
Um, and the leading up to his demise, as I was saying, and they don't. I'm guessing they don't want companions to be there when the Doctor regenerates because that's going to be like traumatic for them or something.
Yeah, especially since Dodo watched her mom die. If you remember from
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
remember that in the last serial.
right.
Yeah, she watched as her mom died and was like crying and stuff. I was
Dodo
like,
was
whoa.
crying when Steven left.
Yeah.
Good thing the Doctor was there to comfort her. Grandfatherly Doctor.
Who
Doing
gets
his
younger
job.
soon.
Yeah. And then gets older again. The third Doctor's.
But then gets way younger.
He gets younger
And
the
then
fourth, and then gets way younger when he goes to the fifth Doctor. The fifth Doctor was the youngest Doctor until Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor. Like the actor, I mean, not the actual Doctor.
but he's soon to be old again. Starting in the new episodes coming out in August. But anyway,
Steven retrospective. We didn't give him a proper retrospective 5 minutes ago.
I guess he was my favorite companion, as I've already said. Not he wasn't yours, but would you say he was your second favorite next to Ian?
No,
Really?
I liked Vicky.
Really? You liked Vicky
Yeah.
more than Steven?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I just liked Vicky. I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
She
Fair
was
enough.
adventurous.
Fair enough. She was. I liked her snarky attitude.
Yeah. Steven's is probably third. Susan, like fourth. Dodo probably tied with Susan at fourth. I haven't had enough of Dodo to make it.
Dodo is better than Susan at this point because she's just hilarious.
She has to fill the void that Steven's left now.
I guess. I thought Steven was best paired with Dodo. And honestly, a few weeks ago I said that I liked the Dr. Steven Vicky trio the best, but actually at this point I like the Dr. Steven Dodo trio the best. Because Dodo is just really out there and insane, and Steven's pretty out there and insane. And I don't know, I just liked their witty banter and their chemistry.
Yeah. Steven went best with Dodo. Actually, I think Steven and Katarina. No. Steven and Dodo probably the best. What was it? Sarah Kingdom.
Yeah, Steven and Sarah Kingdom.
I don't know. In the audio dramas, Steven says his relationship with Sarah could have progressed further if she hadn't died.
Right. Apparently, in the audio dramas, between Feast of Steven and them going back to the Dalek plotline, they spend 6 months doing other stuff.
Yep.
And I was just like, what?
Steven, Sarah, and the Doctor.
Yep, there are Sarah audio dramas.
Yeah.
Well, she dies. Right after that.
Ah, boy.
It must be pretty weird listening to the audio dramas, knowing in the back of your mind, she's gonna die. As soon as she goes back to doing what they're supposed to be doing, she dies. I don't know. I just think that'd be kind of weird.
I don't know. I feel like it would be the same weirdness as knowing your favorite companion gets written out and then watching the serials before that write out.
Well, not well. I knew he would. I don't know. I didn't feel that it was. Well, I didn't feel there was anything leading up to this write out, which is probably why I didn't like it. Probably why I was more disappointed in it than I would have been. Because if there had been something in Steven's character where they sort of led up to him wanting to, I don't know, take charge of something, then maybe it would have been less disappointing. Because as it is, he was just like, want to be a leader? And he was like, no. And the Doctor was like, you should. And he's like, okay. I mean, there was more to it than that. But there was nothing, like Vicky, there was nothing really leading up to it.
Right.
And so far the only... Well, there was... Susan had that lead up, and Ian and Barbara were kind of abrupt, but you knew they wanted to return to their original time, and you knew
Right.
that that was going to be their only chance.
Yeah.
So I was okay with that. Um,
Yeah, I
but
didn't
yeah,
realize Steven had been here for so long. Like, it didn't feel like that long, but he's been here since The Chase, which is when Ian and Barbara were written out.
yeah, he's the second longest running companion so far, next to Ian and Barbara,
Right.
definitely. Well, maybe a
Does
little,
he
maybe
exceed
less than Susan.
Susan?
I don't think he exceeds Susan actually.
I mean, he definitely saw the most other people leave. He saw Vicky leave, Katerina left, Sarah Kingdom left, and then he left. 3 companions left while Steven was with the Doctor.
Right. Um.
Yeah. The serial reminded me of The Matrix.
It did.
Yeah, because in The Matrix, the machines use the humans for power.
Oh, I guess in that aspect, but
That was the only aspect that reminded me of The Matrix. And
no, but getting into that, I actually really liked the premise for this serial, and I thought it could have made its own story.
it did make its own story.
I mean-
in this.
No, you know what I mean. It could have been its own thing. Like it could have been its own premise for a TV show or a movie or something. And it was good as it was, but I really wanted to know more about this whole society,
Well,
how it came to be.
That's not gonna happen.
And
Not unless the Doctor comes back to visit Steven. Like, hey, Steven, I'm the
what
12th.
you doing? Guess what? I'm a king now.
Guess what, Steven? I got married and crap. That happens in the reboot.
Okay. Spoiler alert. Whatever. But yeah, as I was saying before, the thing I wanted to mention, and I guess I kind of did, was, I mean, couldn't they have just taken the energy from themselves and like incorporated the savages into their society and like just use their energy equally or whatever?
Nope.
Did they have to destroy the machine?
Yep.
Okay.
Because I
mean,
feel like there was downsides to using the transfusion device,
well,
which is why they had to use the sap. If they used themselves, then that'd be useless because the reason they're putting the life forces into them is to make them live longer. At least that's what I got out of the serial, was that when they were like getting old or decrepit, they'd put the life force into them, which would rejuvenate them and make them like younger again,
Oh,
so they'd live longer.
I thought it just gave them more intellect and like more abilities and stuff. Because remember the savages were like, well, Steven was like, look at those really intricate cave drawings, and the savages are like, we can't make those anymore now that we've been drained, or something like that. But I don't know. But
like
that's-
either way, it would be counterintuitive to take it from themselves and then give it back to themselves.
I guess, I mean, with the whole machine thing, I guess it's destined to create a sort of divide or a caste system among whoever. But, but I mean, that only makes me want to see more of this society even more, because, I don't know, I was just really fascinated by it. And this was my favorite serial of season 3 so far.
My favorite's still Celestial Toymaker.
There was something else I wanted to say about Steven. Crap, what was it?
This is your lost opportunity.
It is.
Well, no.
Not
We'll do
really.
a season 3 retrospective next week, because
Could always bring up Steven randomly later on, too.
just like Tagana.
Honestly, Tagana's probably going to be the most memorable character from this show. Just because... You know what? I don't even know why. Just because.
Unique name. But
We're
you better
probably
think-
going to be bringing him up when we're watching the reboot. We're going to be like, that guy reminds me of Tagana. But yeah, no. Due to Steven... Not due to Steven's write out, but... Now that Steven's been written out, I don't know any spoilers until the reboot.
Neither do I.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, well, it is a good thing, and I hope it doesn't go awry for me, like it has been,
just don't read the wiki ahead of time.
I guess.
Yeah, I was actually looking for something on episode 3 because I wanted to see someone died, and I spoiled that Steven went out an episode before it happened. I mean, that wasn't that major, but it was just an episode before, so
Yeah,
it was going to happen anyway before we got here to record this episode.
yeah.
So, yeah, guess that's everything.
Yep.
Check us out on iTunes, rate us on iTunes, email us, thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com, questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, etc., etc., etc.
Still haven't gotten any emails.
Next week,
Still waiting.
Next week we have.
Next week is the War Machines, the final serial of season 3.
Yep.
So, and no, not the final serial of the First Doctor.
No, he still has 2 more after that.
Yeah, but yeah, until then, the end.